Category 3, Nature. I go to nature to be soothed and healed, to have my senses put in order. John Burroughs. Being in this world, we are part of nature. Mother Earth, as well as being our playground and source of life, is a being with intelligence, beyond our comprehension, part of the fauna and flora which we share the planet. Nature manages and organises the weather, thunderstorms, rainbows, creates vast ocean, billowing clouds, and thousands of different types of flowers and flora, with a synchronicity that is difficult to comprehend. If you spend too much time thinking about it, it can be a little mind-boggling. All sorts of physical events take place. Everything from earth-crashing waves to serendipitous encounters with rocks falling in front of us, huge chunks of ice falling from glaciers, overflowing through to the smallest size, a lone ant on our car dashboard, or a bee buzzing around our head as we think about making a phone call. All of these remarkable happenings bear profound meaning, inviting us to decipher their hidden messages and glean wisdoms from the intricate interconnectedness of the natural world of which we are a part. If a tree falls in the forest without an ear to translate the vibration, no one would hear it fall. Makes sense. However, just because it didn't make a sound that registered in the forest doesn't mean that all the trees weren't aware that it happened. In Italy, it's considered good luck to have rain on your wedding. Rainbows are often spotted on the day of a funeral and are seen as a sign from the loved one who has passed over. I include astrology in this category mainly because the belief that the other planets have an effect on our lives can only be categorised as natural portents. Full moon, new moon, solar eclipses, all sworn by as omens, a sign of a good time to do X, Y or Z. The solar eclipses are seen as a moment of wonder all around the world. People stop what they're doing and experience the moment, time for universal stillness and awareness. I haven't found enough evidence to show that all people born under the sign of Aries, for instance, are hard-headed and strong-minded. The ones I know do also have a softer, gentle side and rarely say boo to a goose unless they have a bee in their bonnet and then there's no stopping them. But aren't these personality traits so general as to be able to apply to everyone? It is this generic nature of astrology linked to personality types which I'm unable to find any consistency or absolute truth in the theory, because I also believe that personality is malleable. We change as we progress through life. Our self-development and life experiences changes our personalities. Perhaps that is in keeping with where the planets are throughout. Of course, it is possible that self-development happens alongside the movement of the planet. Looking at astrology, I have found that there are times when it seems like too much of a coincidence for it not to be fateful timing. The universal clock has ticked into place, with the planets being the markers of events which are going to happen. Now, I found this to be true when Mercury turns retrograde. 2 or 3 times a year, Mercury turns retrograde. If ever your travel plans are likely to be disrupted, it is then. All sorts of communication errors and misunderstandings happen. Traffic controllers go on strike, train drivers refuse to do overtime. If it involves travel, computers and communication, it is almost guaranteed to go, or at least not go according to plan, when Mercury is retrograde. Little mention of Jonathan Caner, born 18th of December 1957, died 2nd of May 2016. The world famous astrologer, who sadly is no longer with us, of God, as in S-U-N, of God, Sams 2009, which is of the opinion that the Earth has a self-awareness and the Sun has consciousness. Coincidental star sign story. I also had reason to ponder about the most famous authors of children's literature. I was wondering about J.K. Rowling's zodiac sign. I looked it up, and Leo, of course, naturally good with children, great parents, and eternally childlike themselves. Oh, and then, of course, another author who was criticised as much as acclaimed, Enid Blyton. A generation of children went adventuring with the famous 5 and Timmy. I wonder when she was born. Wikipedia, what did we do before you were invented? Only to find Enid Blyton was also born under the zodiac sign of Leo. Lovely. 2 Leo female writers of children's fiction grabbed the imagination of a generation. Oh, and of course, Beatrix Potter, not only a writer, but the illustrator of the Peter Rabbit and Benjamin Bunny series. I'll give you 3 guesses as to which zodiac sign she was born under. Another Leo. A trio of Leos. These are the sort of coincidental dates that kept me going as I was reading and writing about coincidence. And then, of course, there's the subject of death. Death. Often people seem to die around the time of their solar return. No, it's a chirpy subject, but here we are, life and death. If you don't include death, then you're not really talking about life, are you? That is around the time of their birthday. That's your solar return. It's quite common for people to die just before or after their own birthday, when the Earth is in the same position in relation to the Sun as it was at the time of their birth. Occasionally, some people die on their actual birthday. And for me, death isn't something to fear, but it is to be respected. There's nothing any of us can do about it. Unfortunately, I've found, particularly in the UK, there's still a reticence to talk about death. People see it as morbid, or they fear dying, or they feel they want to avoid talking about a time in the future when they no longer exist. Death becomes a much easier concept to deal with once you know that there is life after death. Your spirit and the essence of who you are does not extinguish itself on leaving your physical body. You are eternal. You are spirit, came from spirit, and you will return to spirit. Whatever you do whilst you are here on the planet is up to you. There is a rhyme and reason to life. There are no coincidences or accidents, and everything happens for a reason. And then in this little chapter, it's category 3, bung the moon in. Mainly because I just didn't know where else to put it. The moon. People often associate the full moon with supernatural weirdness. The dark of the moon also brings an unknown stretch for the imagination. The veil which separates our conscious and our higher levels of consciousness thins during the dark of the moon, just before each new moon. I've also found that the phases of the moon seem to have an influence on us little humans. The full moon is often shown to have a supernatural quality, particularly in the movies. Hollywood does love a full moon, but in fact it is the dark of the moon which allows a clearer connection with spirit, a time when the veil is lifted or thinned. It is easier to receive communication from spirit during the dark of the moon. Listening to the Art Bell radio show, Coast to Coast, from the archives, when he used to talk about paranormal events, humans with extrasensory perceptions, and in particular remote viewers, he mentioned that a test which was carried out using remote viewers did have better results during the dark of the moon, and they had less accurate images and information on the full moon. Personally, I've found the dark of the moon, the time just before each new moon, to be the best time to link with spirit, the best time for after-death communication, and the best time to ask for guidance, the best time to fast, start a new diet, a new exercise regime, and a good time to give up any addictions or unwanted behaviours. Leave them with the dark of the moon and move into the new moon phase, seeing each day as a step closer to where you want to be. Giving up a behaviour is hardest in the first 14 days, with the pull of the full moon creating the most difficult. Once you get over the hump of your first full moon, the rest of the way is all downhill toward the next. It is as though the full moon casts a spell over our clear thinking. Our clairvoyance is clouded by the full moon. It is almost as if we are full of water, and our water is puffed up and drawn towards the full moon, making us like dewdrops swaying on the petals in the early morning. For a couple of days a month, we are all at the mercy of the moon goddess, although, as part of our self-development and self-awareness journey, by becoming aware that this is an experience which will be happening, we are able to prepare ourselves, although taking care of our own personal thoughts and feelings allows us to stay in control and take advantage of this knowledge so we can choose the best days for different activities. Moon-sensitive people can often find themselves almost beside themselves during a full moon. You know those days when inconvenience keys navigate mysteriously away from their usual home, phones slip beneath sofa cushions only to resurface 3 hours after turning the house upside down. Full moon is a time when earthly matters are highlighted. The need to feel human, emotionally full, loving, joyful and creative. It is often a time when women ovulate and fall pregnant, and the full moon is romantic, hopefully full of optimism and abundance for the future.